This is Dan Dicks here reporting for Press for Truth. We've got a great show lined up for you today, my friends, so let's just jump right into it. Joining me on the line right now is my good friend James Corbett of the Corbett Report. CorbettReport.com is the website. Now, normally the Press for Truth audience would not need an introduction for James Corbett. However, in this particular occasion, I've interviewed James many times, but this is the first time that I can add not only researcher, documentary filmmaker, investigative reporter, but now professionally published author I can add to his growing list of achievements because James has finally produced and published his first book. It's titled Reportage, Essays on the New World Order. And I say finally because this is actually a project that has been 15 years in the making. So James, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about this. First of all, man, congratulations on publishing your first book, Reportage, Essays on the New World Order. And many people might be asking, what essays are these? Well, we've got this, Adventures in the New Media, the 9/11 terror trade, up-down politics, they don't want your genes in the pool, the P-Tech story, selling your soul for a matrix stake, how to really defeat globalism, biotech billionaires and GMO doomsday, how to enjoy your servitude, the three types, the strange life of Maurice Strong, the real meaning of independence, the 9/11 whistleblowers, why we must oppose Bilderberg, a brief introduction to spontaneous order, who controls the environmental movement, escaping the grand chessboard, and now for something completely different, and finally a letter to the future and why I write. And James, I would like to start with the very last one there that you finished with, why I write. Why is that? Because, you over the last 15 years or, since you've been doing this, have really honed in on the medium of videography, documentary filmmaking. You've, along with your editor, Brock, the two of you have really come up with a solid formula for creating documentary film styled content in that type of a medium to spread your information. So let's start with what made you want to take on the medium of writing books in order to spread your information?
Good question. Yes. The for people who haven't read it, the Why I Write essay is a sort of homage slash plagiarism of Orwell, who wrote a Why I Write essay. So I picked up on that and sort of expand on it in that. And the long story short is I've always wanted to be a writer since I was a little kid. I wanted to write. By the time I was 10, I had already decided I was going to be a writer. And I kind of directed my life in that direction. I actually originally started out at the UC, University of Calgary, I was going to be a physics major, but that didn't last long. I switched into English, and it felt more like home for me because I love books. I love reading. I love writing. I always have, presumably, always will. So that was the way my life was heading. And I thought I was going to end up at some publishing house as an editor or something. Secretly, I'm going to be a novelist, but whatever. If I have to make it in the workaday world, I'll work at some publishing house or something. Along the way, I got caught up. Well, suddenly I'm teaching English in Japan, and now I'm starting this website. And it's funny because I was keeping a journal at that time, not every single day, but just sort of writing down thoughts as they occurred to me. And in my journal, you could actually pinpoint the time around 2006 when I start going down the rabbit hole and start realizing, like, oh my God, like all this literature stuff that I've been spending all my time on is not nearly as interesting to me now as all of this other stuff. And at some point in my journal, I kind of dedicate myself to, okay, well, now I think I'm going to have to go down this path and I'm going to start doing this in a totally different way. So I took my English university degree. What are you going to do with that? Well, I took essentially all of that training and all of the time that I'd spent, for example, constructing essays. Well, I just turned that into, okay, now it's in video format, or now I'm doing interviews, or now I'm doing articles, but using the same idea. This is why citation of sources has always been such an important part of what I do, because I'm coming from that academic background. You better cite your sources. So I've always had that inside of me, and I've structured a lot of my content in that way. Essentially, these are essays, but I'll present them on video because that's what the kids are watching these days. But in the back of my mind, I've always had that idea. Well, still fundamentally, I think I'm a writer. And so I have wanted to do this for a long time. As you allude to there, the initial idea for this coalesced in 2009. And I had literally this exact title, Reportage, Essays on the New World Order. I knew what it was going to be. I knew the title. I knew, okay, totally, I'm going to do this. And I'll get it done in a few months. So I actually created a trailer for the book in 2009, which I released at that time. And here we are in 2025. Well, anyway, it's finally actually in existence, so people can buy it. But yeah, what a wild ride.
Man, better late than never. 15 years indeed. What a wild ride. Did you intend from the beginning to write a book that didn't necessarily have to be read from front cover to back cover? Like this is literally something you could just pick up and kind of, start reading at any point. Or, is there an actual order to it? Or can people just pick it up and start reading any essay at any point?
People absolutely can dip into it anywhere they want at any time and come back to it at any time. It really is meant to be read in easily digestible chunks. Having said that, I did put some thought into the order of the essays, and I think certainly the first essay and the last essay are kind of the bookends. They're the personal aspects of this where you can learn more about myself and my own how that intersects with the work that I'm doing. But other than that, they can be read in any order. I think that the essays kind of inform each other, and if you read it from front to back, I think it does present sort of you kind of build on the information as it goes along. But I don't know if that a conscious, intentional thing or not. I wanted to write a series of essays because the idea for me, the reason why, for example, I did my master's degree in Anglo-Irish literature, and I remember on the sort of the end of that course, I was talking to the professor, the department head of the English department, and he was saying, "Are you planning on going forward with this? Are you going to do a PhD?" And I remember thinking at that time, do I want to spend the next 7 years of my life or whatever it is in the creation of some doctoral dissertation on some tiny little aspect of one tiny little thing in this, grand universe of ideas? And I'm just like, I don't think I'm built for that. No, I want to know about everything, and I want to talk about this and that and the other. And that's kind of what the Corbett Report has been. It's been about everything. It's philosophy, it's history, it's science, it's politics, it's literature, it's everything. So for me, it would just seem natural. Okay, I'm going to write a series of essays because then I can talk about this and I can talk about that and I can talk about the other thing, and it doesn't have to be all on this one subject. So that was the I think the reason for it. But the happy accident is that in this day and age, most people don't read, so might as well make it as easy as possible for them. You can read an essay, right? You don't have to read the whole book. Just read an essay at a time here and there, and it'll work out. So I think it works out for everyone.
Yeah, good call. I think so too. And throughout that process, you're covering so many different topics. I would wonder, is there any essay in particular that stood out for you as being most favorable to research and to write, or maybe the one that you just was your favorite to take on?
Oh boy, choosing children here. Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say I think it should be pretty obvious just by the size and the number of footnotes which ones are the deepest dive research type essays. Specifically the biotech billionaires essay and the grand chessboard essay. There's a lot of research that has gone into those, and it's very, very detailed, and I don't know, 100+ endnotes on each of those essays. So those were big ones to put together, and putting them together was grueling but rewarding, I think. Especially the grand chessboard essay. I remember working on that one for months and months and months because, like, I wrote this entire thing about Russia and Ukraine and what have you, and at a certain point I realized, you know what, this is kind of complicating it and it's getting too detailed, so I had to put all that aside. Luckily, I managed to convert that into an editorial for my subscriber newsletter, but I had thousands of words on that I had to get out of there. So in a way, it's like chiseling away at the sculpture and trying to find the sculpture hidden in the marble, essentially. And so a lot of stuff gets left on the cutting room floor. So ones like that were definitely grueling but rewarding. And then there are other ones. I don't know what is my favorite. It's hard to say, but I guess it depends on the mood that I'm in because some of them Some of them are more humorous than others or have a more satirical bent to them. There's one, for example, that's framed around an imaginary conversation between someone who's time traveled from the 1950s into the 2020s and the conversation that might result between those two mindsets. And I think that one's, at least it's fun and easy to read. Other ones like the Matrix Stake was an idea that I had. That one, I had that idea in 2009 when I first started thinking of these essays, and it has changed, but not drastically changed. The core idea is the same, and I think people will get a kick out of that one. Favorite? I don't know. It's hard to say. Hard to say. But again, it depends on the mood. And that's the great thing about having a collection of essays like this is that whatever you're in the mood for, if you want the deep dive research kind of thing, or if you want something that's humorous and more lighthearted, they're both in there.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Bible of essays because much like the Bible is a collection of I think 44 different books. This is or 66 I think. This is a collection of essays on the New World Order, all in one perfect awesome place. Now, what was publishing this thing like? Like, how difficult was it to actually get something like this published? And could you
Yeah.
potentially foresee any censorship coming down the road if
Mhm.
anybody doesn't want this to become a bestseller?
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. Absolutely that could happen. So yeah, the publishing story in and of itself. No one wants to hear the big sob story, but my God, I was not expecting this to be a because even after I got this all finished, like the entire thing was done, dusted, finished last summer. It still took several months, even after I'd been preparing for several months for a publication. It still took several months to get all the ducks in a row and all this. So there's all the kind of bureaucratic rigmarole and hoop jumping and what have you to get this into reality. But beyond that, no, I was originally I was going to self-publish. As it turned out, I ended up meeting well, a subscriber of mine who offered his book designing services to me several years ago. We ended up contacting and getting in touch, and then eventually, at some point, he became the publisher of this. So the publisher is technically in America. I have an imprint called Editions Shukuto. That is my imprint that this is being printed under, but it's a publisher in America. And on that front, I mean, there's no censorship. I am friends with the publisher, so absolutely delighted with the way this has come out. But in terms of the prospect for censorship of this type of work, or even just the soft censorship of keeping it, out of bestseller lists and what have you, I'm not expecting it to be a bestseller. But it brings to mind, for example, The Real Anthony Fauci, which was absolutely by any metric a bestseller, but they were keeping it out of bookstores, on purpose.
Right.
The good thing about this is that it is a real deal book with a real deal ISBN number. So literally with that number, all you have to do is give that number to any bookstore anywhere and they will be able to order it for you. And so it's easily available at this point. But yeah, take advantage of it while you can. Who knows what happens in the bookstores of the future and what may or may not be available. So at any rate, it's available now.
Well, you did send me a preview copy online for me to check out for myself, and I've been, skimming over it before this interview, obviously, and I was very delighted to see that I somehow made the cut. My name actually makes it into James Corbett's book. How on earth did that come about?
Because how am I going to write about Bilderberg without talking about you and your coverage that you've been devoting to Bilderberg for what, 2 decades now? You were there in 2006, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had to give the hat tip to what you've been doing. Specifically, of course, we're talking about the essay on Bilderberg and why we must oppose Bilderberg. And the interesting story about that one was that essay. So I've been writing it and rewriting it and rewriting it and editing it and rewriting it for years and years with my editor, Susan, who's been editing this book with me. And we've been going back and forth and shaping it and crafting it and getting it ready. And then finally sent that with all the other essays to my publisher, Tim, in the US. And Tim, in reading it over, made the right call on that one because the way I had originally framed that essay was kind of an in-group, out-group thing. It was kind of like about Bilderberg, but the average person on the street thinks it's, Bilderberg with cheese. It's just some joke to them. But about Bilderberg. So how do we talk to those people about why we should oppose Bilderberg? But Tim made the right call on that. He said, no, you have to rewrite this, frame it so that it is for everyone. this essay is for everyone. The person on the street who has never heard of Bilderberg picks it up and reads it, and suddenly they're part of some outgroup that you're making fun of. That's not the right way to write this. And he was exactly right about that. Yeah, no, this book is for everyone. This is the book that you can give to your normie friends who've never heard of Bilderberg, and they're not going to feel like, oh, I'm making fun of them and putting them on some outgroup or something. No, they're part of this. Hey, did you know there's this thing called Bilderberg that exists, and all these important people are meeting there year after year in total secrecy? You probably don't know about it because the average media reporter out there isn't covering it, and to the extent that they do, they just treat it as, oh, those crazy conspiracy theorists think about this. But there are some real deal, actual journalists who are actually sleuthing it out at Bilderberg every year, like Dan Dicks. So, of course, I'm going to give you the hat tip on that. You've been doing incredible yeoman's work at Bilderberg year after year after year, and my hat's off to you for doing that.
Well, I really appreciate that. And, I did purchase the book. It is on its way. It'll be here in the mail soon enough. But some people may be wondering about a potential audio rendition eventually, or maybe will this potentially be online for free? Obviously, we're going to encourage people to buy the book, but will there be a time that people can get this information for free online?
Absolutely. So, number one, yes, there will be an audiobook. I am recording it now, so it will be coming. And number two, like all my work, I'm not putting anything behind a paywall. I am going to put this up on archive.org completely for free. Although it was kind of funny, at the exact time I was talking about this with Tim, my publisher, we were talking about it at the exact time that there was that archive.org incident last year where it suddenly went down for a few days and you couldn't access any books. And it was like, oh, okay, well, I will put it up out there and it will be for free. But don't necessarily rely on that. You will have to have some sort of copy. And hey, why not have either a physical copy or a copy that you order anyway?
Well, there's something to be said in this crazy kind of TikTok viewing world about having something tangible, like a book in your hands that you can physically hold, read, have the information, and pass it on to your friends and family. So, I mean, people who are watching this right now might be pretty excited about the fact that you've just published your own first book. Where is the best place for people to go if they do want to make this purchase? I know you do have, I think it's a hard copy for members and paperback copy for everybody else. Where would the best place be to go for that?
You're right about that. This is the copy you would be ordering from your bookstore. It's a paperback copy and hopefully available everywhere. At any rate, you can order it by ISBN number. But the best place to go is reportagebook.com, spelt like it sounds, Reportage book.com. And there you can find all the information about how to order it. In America, there's a link that you can click through for Ingram to order from them directly, and that's probably the easiest way. But regardless of where you are, there's a bunch of links at the bottom of that page to various booksellers for either the paperback or the ebook versions, and eventually the audiobook version. But as I say, you don't have to order it from any particular place. Literally any bookstore in the world that you can order a book, they will be able to order it for you with the ISBN number. And there is even a sell sheet that that my publisher created that's up for download on my episode 472 of the Corbett Report podcast on announcing Reportage. There's a link there. You could print that off and give it to the clerk at the bookstore, library, ask them to order a copy. That would be greatly appreciated. The other way people can help out, if you buy a copy, rate and review it wherever you buy it. Just leave a rating and a review. That really does help to get it seen by other people. So I would really appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, I want to encourage everybody not only to get on there, do the reviews, but actually purchase a physical copy. Don't just purchase one for yourself, too. Purchase one for your family members and your friends. This is an excellent thing that you can give to people as a gift. You can give away, and it's an excellent way to support James's work. So, James, as I understand it, should this go in a successful way for you, you may consider doing another one. Is that right?
It is, and I will try to keep it under 15 years for the next one if that's the case. But anyway, yeah, it does depend sort of on the response to this. Do people read anymore? I guess we'll find out.
I guess we'll find out. Well, hopefully this is going to encourage people to, at the very least, check it out on when it eventually comes out online. But I would really encourage people to actually pick up the physical copy. We not only need more of that in this what we're calling a TikTok crazy world, but again, it's a great way to show your support for people like James who have been, banging out this kind of work for over 15 years now, and it's all packaged into a neat little package. And that's just fantastic, man. So again, congratulations on the release of your first book. Any final thoughts on this? Like, this is wrapping up a 15-year epic project. You must be pretty excited.
I am exhausted, actually. But yes, yes, it is exciting. Honestly, it's good to finally have this out in the world. And all the people who've been pestering me for years about writing a book, I've been writing a book. I've been working on it. Don't worry, guys. Anyway, yes. Whew. And now I can breathe easy and start a media blitz talking about the book. Anyway. So thank you for having me on to talk about this. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I want to encourage everybody out there to, if you have a podcast, if you have a show, get James on. Let's promote this book. Let's push him to some of the big podcasters out there, and get this paperback spread as far as possible. So once again, man, James, thank you so much for breaking this all down for us. Once again, congratulations on the release of your book, and yeah, keep up the great work, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Dan.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.